Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to the eSports Report. Puckett, Jack Benson here today, and we are going to be covering all things E3 this week. We sent Maven and Mr. X out to E3. They went to a Microsoft party last night.
Party!
Little preview of some Gears of War and Halo action still to come up later in the show, but we got to open things up by talking about Season 3. As you may have seen at 3 o'clock, MLG made some announcements on the site. First one was the game types that are going to be played in Season 3. The second one, it's a broadcast schedule for what we're going to see in Relegation. Of course, before we can get to Season 3, we got to figure out what teams are going to be there. Yeah. That's all going down this weekend. Let's start things off, though, with the Season 3 game types announcement. This was MLG and Sledgehammer going to the pro players, talking to them, saying, what game types do you not want? What game types do you want? The original goal was we replaced CTF, so we needed to add some hardpoint maps, and we needed to add an uplink now that uplink is going to be in every best of 3 that'll be played. So let's take a look at the new game modes. The big ones to note here in Search and Destroy. Actually, we'll start with uplink. Biolab chosen to stay in. Comeback, always a fan favorite. Detroit was also in there. And then Parliament from the DLC has been added in. Ben, you said...
I'm not even going to comment.
You're not ready for Parliament.
Yeah.
Yeah. This was the preferred map chosen by the pros. No comment.
I would have looked at other maps that aren't DLC before I went to a map like Parliament. Like Green Band, for example, in Uplink, I think would be a little bit better than Parliament. I'm not a Parliament fan. I'll be honest. When we played that map, I mean, even you yourself said this seems a little bit hectic. Seems like what's going on. I get it, though, because you can't use the high-rise map that's a little bit broken. All the other DLC didn't really work for Uplink.
Yeah.
But I feel like this is kind of like a drift, search, and destroy scenario where we kind of just picked one for the sake of picking one, as opposed to... I don't know.
I saw pro players tweeting they want to get 8 lobbies together to test these new competitive maps. I'm hoping that they got people together. Like, this was prior to this announcement happening, so obviously they got some gameplay on it.
Chris, you just pulled up the map on your screen. I mean,
it's symmetrical to a certain extent.
This is a CTF, so you're not. Oh, this is Hardpoint. Excuse me. So you're not going to see the uplinks
now,
here.
Doesn't the drone spawn right there?
Yeah, I believe so.
And then the 2 uplink portals are on either side of the buildings. Is that what it is? I can't tell.
I'm just really. There is just so much hecticness in this map that it doesn't make sense.
Right.
Like there's so much junk.
The pros have played it. I honestly have not had a chance to play Uplink on this, so I'm gonna have to wait and play with everyone else. Let's keep going through here though, as we have several other game modes. Search and Destroy, the next big one. And this is big for a couple reasons. Not only did we add in some new DLC maps, you're going to see Skyrise in there. High Rise, a favorite back in the day, is being brought back in Skyrise. But some swaps were made.
Yeah.
Search and Destroy Drift is going to be replaced here by Skyrise, and then Recovery is basically coming back in place of Terrace. They decided Recovery was better than the way Terrace ever played.
Yeah.
Let's throw that game type back in the mix.
I'm really happy with these changes to these maps. I think a lot of people will agree. Skyrise, everyone knows how fantastic it was back in MW2 as a search and destroy map. And really, when that first decision was made to get rid of Recovery, people were like, was it that bad of a game type?
I mean, it was pretty one-sided.
Well, that's the thing. It had some issues, but you could also throw out some different strategies, rush towards B instead of the typical A street push. Yes, it might be a map that sometimes can be considered one-sided, but I think a lot of people are more happy to have Recovery back in and Terrace out.
I would agree.
Terrace, everyone said it was just too easy on the offensive end.
I mean, there was just so many different places you could rush.
Yeah.
Like, it was so hard to control on the defensive side. So it was just...
It was almost like your only best strategy on defense was just to rush towards River and hope you flank.
And like, just hope you get lucky.
Is that really what you want?
Right.
Is that really what you want?
So same thing kind of with Drift. I feel like...
Yeah.
I feel bad for Drift in a sense because I don't think it was really ever given a
Drift didn't work out in Search, so they didn't want it there. But we will see Drift when it comes time for Hardpoint. Now,
did they just like flip coins?
All the pros were polled here, and you can see the ones that answered. They said they want to play a Biolab, Detroit, Retreat, and Solar are the returning maps. Drift is added, and so is Compound.
See, now, Drift...
They add Compound. That's
the one you hated.
That was the really Which one was that?
It's
the one with the
really
turrets?
small
It's
one.
the really small one.
The really small one.
Well,
So
I mean, we're gonna be seeing 60 bombs on that map.
So this of
Like,
all the
we
map
actually
changes.
will.
Of all the map changes, Ben obviously has some negative feelings on some. I'll see how Drift plays, but Compound is the one that I'm most skeptical about, to say the least, because
Really?
it is such a small map, and with how quick AW already is in Hardpoint, you're basically taking a map like Comeback.
You basically the spawns on this
Are
about
insane.
to be just ridiculous.
like Uplink,
not even.
you could dunk an Uplink drone in 7 seconds. This map. It's
No, it was less than 7 seconds, like 5 seconds.
Yeah, this is middle map right here.
But I think one of the real keys to take away from this is just SMG is going to become dominant on this map.
Oh, I mean,
There's 0 point having.
And there's a little bit of balance now compared to something like Solar or Retreat.
I mean, I
Like-
guess.
I mean, I just don't see how you don't even like. I feel like either you're gonna need trophy on this map if you want to stay alive in the hardpoint for more than 3 seconds. Because off spawn, you can almost nade wherever it is.
But realistically, you even have time to throw a grenade off spawn.
I
Like,
mean,
think about that. Like,
you spawn in,
dude,
spawn in,
look
fast
at
hands,
the
double
movement.
frag.
Look at the movement of this player, right? Just wait for him to kind of like die, or you can just see just how quick you can get. So as soon as he spawns in, like immediately double jumps, sees a teammate. You can that's 2 seconds.
Keep in mind,
That
this
was like 2
is
seconds.
6 on 6.
a 6-on-6 uplink game. So, you know, the locations of the hardpoint must be very solid, and these guys must have enjoyed it over others.
We tested it. We tested.
What do you
Hardpoint,
think of
remember?
Drift, though, coming back in hardpoint form instead of search and destroy?
Personally, I think it's a better hardpoint map than it was a search map.
Okay.
I feel again like we could have found something a little bit better. Like for me,
Isn't the first
Skyrise,
what did you want to see
Skyrise would have been a better hardpoint map. And that had some issues in my honest opinion. Anyway, just as a map as a whole, which was kind of a shame to see it because it's like came back, everyone was like, yes, finally, like High Rise is back, it's gonna be awesome. But it just didn't really work on a lot of game modes. Like you within seconds already realized you can exploit the uplink.
Of that.
And it was like,
uplink shot.
oh well.
Yeah, the
didn't really
uplink
think
was a
about
little
that.
one-sided.
It will work really well for Search and Destroy though. Like it'll be absolutely fine for that. I'm not worried about that at all. But for Hardpoint, I think I don't know. I feel like Drift's in there just for the sake of being in there.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I need to see.
But
more.
Compound?
What maps did you want to see come back instead of the ones the pros voted through?
From DLC?
Yeah.
I don't think the DLC maps are that good. I'll be honest.
Okay. So you don't have.
I would say you would have.
complaining.
I would say no.
I understand.
No, I'm saying you could have gone into the regular maps, which we haven't done. Like right now, it's just all right. Well, DLC, come and use that, as opposed to saying, well, this game mode didn't, or this map didn't work at the beginning of the game.
Right. So
How
the
many
original
patches-
maps, what would you add?
I mean, that's what I'm saying, but it should be play tested. That comes down to people who play the game a lot. Like the pros should be thinking about that as well as the DLC, because like Green Bad Uplink, like it's our go-to kind of like jokey map.
Yeah.
But it probably would work now because people immediately wrote it off at the beginning because you could pass the drone across the map.
Right.
Huge fundamental issue with the map. Now you can't do that. You can't tell me that all of a sudden it doesn't become viable in a way, unless there's another big exploit, which no one knows yet.
I'm confident in the pro players' decisions and choices. I'm just interested to see how Uplink on Parliament plays.
Let's ban Uplink.
And Compound Hardpoint plays, because really those two will be crazy. Here's your full list of game types added. So, Parliament Uplink was the first one we went over. Recovery is now back in place of Terrace.
Happy about that.
Drift now replaced by Skyrise. I think the best changes we have on here are the Search and Destroy changes, absolutely.
Fact.
Hardpoint Compound. Interested to see. Expect 8 subs on either team. Honestly, if you could akimbo them, they would, because it's just going to be a lot of spraying and pre-firing different spawn areas.
Now,
and then Hardpoint on Drift.
Now, of course, the Search and Destroy maps, we took out Drift, we took out Terrace.
Yep.
People towards the, I guess in the chat were saying they actually enjoyed Search and Destroy Drift, and that it just never was really given a chance by the players. Do you believe that's true? Like no one took the time to learn how to play it properly?
It was that first map where it was like, hey, by the way, DLC's being added. And immediately everyone's like, no DLC.
The devil.
Bad DLC. We don't want to play DLC. So I think you could have picked any map, and I think it would have been the same way. I think it would have just been immediately written out.
I think the one thing I liked, to be honest, about Drift, and this is probably a lot of people either hate or love this, is that off spawn, you could double jump and call where the opponents are going, kind of like what we see in some other competitive shooters, where you can have an idea of 3A, 1B, or vice versa, and then you can kind of cater your play on that. It would add that teams couldn't just go with a strategy prior to a round and just kind of go with it blindly. It was more, let's adapt to what our opponents are doing. That's one part that I enjoyed.
Okay, well that's gone.
Yeah, I know.
You'll never enjoy it again,
Yeah,
Jack.
sorry.
I think for Hardpoint, though, it's going to be very chaotic.
It's going to be interesting. I still want to see how they play out before I make judgment myself. Yep. I know we're going to start including these in the 2Ks and 5Ks relatively soon, but the Season 3 relegation tournament doesn't have to worry about any of these game modes. They're just simply playing without CTF. Yeah. So everything will be familiar this weekend when you watch the cast, and we have announced officially the broadcast schedule. I worked on this with our commissioner. Lots of great games in round number 1, but the games that we decided to put on the main stage here are going to be Strictly Business versus Epsilon. I expect that to be one of the closest matches in all of round 1. Optic Nation versus Geared for Gaming. Geared for Gaming caused some upsets in the online qualifier. That's how they got in. Prophecy versus Mutiny, though. This is Aches and Crew going up against the #1 team from that online qualifier. Mutiny basically dominated everyone there. And then we're going to close out with Orbit versus Enigma 6, Ben.
I'm excited for that Prophecy team. I really think Prof should be able to steamroll through. If they don't qualify, then something very strange has happened.
Something else I want to point out is that Mutiny team. They've done a lot online.
Yeah, they're good.
They've done a lot online. They got to the finals of the 5K. They dominated the Season 3 relegation tournament to get themselves in the position to be there. Now they're going up against Prophecy in round number 1. What a statement it would be if they could take them out right off the gates and say, hey, we're just as good on land as well.
What is the exact format?
So it's double elimination. 16-team bracket, double elimination. We're going to see 8 of those teams on the main stage Friday. 8 of them will play over on Station 1. Saturday, though, we're basically focused purely on the winners round. You're going to see all 4 of the winners round 2 matches. So these are your final 8 in the winners bracket. Pretty awesome broadcast schedule here. We're going to have 2 losers matches, but I was looking at it, and it could be like teams Orbit or Enigma 6 going up against Isolation, for example, or VVV. If some kind of major upset happens, look for that losers round 2 to make it on your stage. And then we're going to close out Saturday with our winners semi-finals. That leads to a championship Sunday. That is just going to be 4 straight matches starting. 6 matches. We're going to start with losers round 4. It's basically losers semis or losers quarters. Then we go to winners final, losers round 5, losers final, and grand final.
That's a lot of Call of Duty action.
Lot.
That's going to be a good
I can't remember the last time we did 6 matches on a
Sunday. That's what I was thinking. I was like, that's a lot of games for a Sunday.
Possibly 7 if that grand final goes to best of 5.
Best of 5, wow.
It's good.
But realistically, though, I feel once you get into that top 4, it's like that's where its pressure is just off. Because you'll need that placement game.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you will need the placement game.
Well, we are going to talk about E3. That's a quick look at Season 3, though, for our MLG Pro League. We've had Matt and we've had Maven out at E3. I think Matt is joining us now to talk about his time last night. Matt's out in LA. He's out there with Minx and Maven. Matt, what went down yesterday, my friend? What did you guys get into?
Last night we went to the Xbox party. It's pretty good. Me, Maven, Jared, we all went there. Got some hands-on with Gears of War, some hands-on with Halo 5. It was like 12v12 Halo 5, though. It was like a different game mode.
It was the Warzone.
Yeah, Warzone.
So, Matt, talk to me a little bit.
Yes.
You look lost. It's okay. Talk to me a little bit about Gears first, man. What do you think of the new game?
So we basically played the remaster, the Ultimate Edition one. I think they announced today it's only going to be $40 when it comes out, and it's going to include a Gears 4 beta, too. And it ran great. I mean, it played like Gears of War. I mean, it was really smooth. The addition, to move it up from 30 to 60 FPS, kind of messed with me a little bit when I first sat down. Maven had no idea what was going on.
Really? So if you're a hardcore Gears player, you're going to notice it right away.
Yes.
But if you're just coming to Gears, it's not an issue.
Oh, no, yeah. If you're just coming to Gears, definitely not an issue. I mean, you're used to 60, but, I mean, everything is still there. I mean, they did a great job kind of, remaking a game. You don't want to, touch a lot of the stuff from the first one, and they did a really nice job. I mean, you can still, slide and pick up weapons like Gears 1. They added some stuff from, Gears 3. So, they added some of the characters from Gears 3. They added some maps from, I believe, Gears 1 Online, too. So they added a lot of stuff to it, but then they also kind of kept it in its original spot as well.
How bad was Maven?
He was awful. I don't think he got a kill. The 4 or 5 games we played, I don't think he got a kill.
Nice.
Just what we expected.
We're watching some of your B-roll from last night. I assume we're watching your screen, because this is actually pretty good. Although you miss all of your reloads, Looks like you were doing some damage there. What are you most excited about with this remake, Matt? Do you think it's going to fall flat on launch like we saw Master Chief Collection, or is this something that you could see competitive tournaments thrown right away?
I mean, Gears of War, when it was played competitively, I mean, it was actually pretty big. I mean, 2006 to like 2009. I mean, there were a lot of different tournaments holding events for it. Obviously, MLG did a lot with Gears of War all the way up to like Gears of War 3. And then I think it's still got a great fan base now. You still see tournaments going on now for Gears of War. I think Gears of War 3 Hype Station holds tournaments for. So I think there's still a huge crowd for the competitive Gears scene. I think if you go, it'll be interesting because you go back to Gears of War 1, like, do some of those players come back? Then you get some new players in there, and then they kind of like Master Chief. It was like $60, you got all the games, but like $40 is like pretty cheap to get into a game like this.
Yeah,
very cheap.
It's a Steam sale on your Xbox One. So, did you see any old pros there? Who was kind of the audience at this Microsoft party playing the games?
There were a few pros there that played from Gal 1. Some players that I knew that were there were Fatal Strike. He was there. Captain Barbosa was actually there.
Barbosa.
He's done some production, but he was there. And then a lot of other players. I think the Coalition Studios, they're working really close with like the pro scene to kind of push esports for Gears of War. So it's pretty exciting.
I like it. Big question here is, did you get an answer? Is there going to be spectator mode possibly at all, so we could do some online match commentary?
Didn't get a chance to speak to anybody from Coalition, but I think when we go today, that's definitely a question I want to ask, because Gears 1 never had a spectator mode. It was kind of like this over-the-top camera switching thing, and you can only go to one like first-person perspective. So that would be great if they added some kind of broadcast mode.
Well, I'll tell you what, we blew up in Ghost because of the online match ability to be broadcast. So I think this would be huge for the Gears community to have that tool. I know everyone's going to be stoked to have the old Gears maps back in it. I'm excited to see how it's going to turn out. Is it as competitive as everyone's hoping for? I saw a lot of tweets yesterday from Cream. NJ Cubano from Raw Talent was getting fired up. Nick Merckx hit me up with a few DMs.
I saw, what's his name last night? I saw Caesar last night.
You saw CDN 111?
Yeah. I don't know why, like, just totally, like, you started mentioning, like, Cream and all these guys, and I remember I was, like, playing, and then I just had a hand on my back, and it was Caesar. I was like, holy crap, I haven't seen you in God knows how long.
Yeah, for those of you guys who don't know Caesar, CDN, he was a competitor on, they did like a sci-fi best gamer show. In Control from StarCraft was on it. Caesar was on it.
Caesar's the best.
He's been an amazing FPS player in New Jersey. He's kind of dominated the tri-state area for a while. We always played Lockout, Halo 2 1v1s for $1. But one of my favorite personalities, he's also a commentator for Gears of War, on-camera personality as well, and one of the best Fight Night players you will ever meet.
Really?
But I'm glad to hear he's still in the scene. I talked to him. I was like, yo, man, when you got some free weekends, let's do some gal commentary. I'm ready.
Yes.
Well, I know you guys took a look at Gears. You also took a look at Halo. What was your impression? Because I know Maven was more excited for the Halo side. You were more excited for Gears. What was your impression on both games?
So I was really excited for Gears coming in. It was definitely great. Halo 5 was absolutely insane. It was so good. I was actually really, not like shocked, but the fact that like we got off of playing it and it was a long match. It was like an 18-minute match. And we were just like, do we have to leave? Like, we want to keep playing this. It was that good.
You were really enjoying it. The 12v12 even.
Yes. So it's they showed off like the Warzone. We had to play Warzone. It's like it's 12v12, and there's like AI on the map, like think kind of like almost like Titanfall. And you kill those guys, get points, and then you take over like bases. And when you have all 3 bases, you can kill the enemy's core. But there's also boss fights that drop down on the map, like different hunters and stuff, and you can earn your team points for that. But when you have enough points, when you respawn, or there's like these different kind of like rec pods, they're called rec points, you spend your rec points to get guns and vehicles that you can spawn in with.
Oh, really?
So yeah, there were some times where like me and Snipe Down were on the same team, and we would spawn right at the base, like closest to the enemy's one, and I had like 8 rec points, so I was spending it on a battle rifle and then a sniper rifle to spawn in with.
Wow.
Interesting. So when you say you kill the AI and you get points, is that points towards the kind of like the end score of the game, or is that kind of a point system which is separate to the end score? How does it work?
It includes in the end score, but the end score is so high that it takes forever to get there.
It's similar to killing an AI in Titanfall.
So it's basically
very similar to Titanfall.
Right,
but the main difference is that like Titanfall, where you felt like you couldn't find any players, like this you're constantly running. Like I hardly killed AI.
Awesome. Now that's a big concern. I know Ben and I had was like, is this going to be a game where you can simply kill all the AI and still win? Sounds like no, you're going to be battling players more.
And what actually made for some cool stuff. Like Maven didn't really do much because he was kind of average yet again. But there was one point where Flamesword's on the other team, and Flamesword's fighting like this enemy boss from the opposing side, and Maven from a distance sees that it has no health, and he just throws 2 grenades, hits a snipe shot on it, and he ends up last hitting the boss, and we got the 200 points.
Oh, that's cool.
Now, Matt,
I like that. That's really cool.
The big question a lot of people had about Warzone was they immediately marketed it as the 4 times larger map than we've ever seen before in a Halo game. How did the map size feel? Did it feel all right? You said you saw a lot of action. How was that overall for you?
It was big, but you felt you were in the action the entire time. Yeah. You never felt like you had to walk a million miles to go somewhere. I mean, you could pick like the spawn points that were really far away if you wanted, but there would really be no reason to do that.
Oh, wow,
unless you were spawning in like a vehicle. But
when you say you pick your spawn, when you say you pick your spawn, are we talking kind of like a battlefield?
When you control a base, it gives you the option to spawn there. So you could spawn to home base, and then there's like 3 bases in the middle, and then the opposing team's base. You obviously can't spawn the opposing team's base.
Okay.
Damn it, that was going to be what I was going to do.
And how long do you think it's going to take to capture all 3 bases? I assume that's the end goal.
So the games they had set up for us were like 18 minutes, just to keep on time, to keep pushing people in. But they said, I think by release, like an actual game of this would take about 20 to 30 minutes.
Wow. 20 to 30. Wow.
20 to 30 minutes?
And I'm excited for this because normally Halo was 10 minutes in, 10 minutes out. Think of how many kills you can rack up in 20 minutes.
It's almost like developing a story of your own.
I feel it's going to be just like kind of that game mode. You're like, all right, I'm going to warm up kind of thing. Let me just go kill some stuff.
And honestly, that's what it's going to be for a competitive player. You're not going to go in there being like, yo, let's bring in 3 full pro teams and try to wreck Warzone.
I think also what's great about this game mode is it'll appeal to a lot of people. It's like nothing we've ever seen in Halo before. It'll have that casual aspect. It's got the vehicles, but it has the competitive part where you got to take control of an objective, obviously utilizing your rec points wisely. I think it's going to be really cool. But then the AI, as we saw in that B-roll, when you get a kill on a big boss, obviously you get granted, it looks like more score, Matt, if you can confirm.
It was like 200. It was actually, Maven actually made a pretty big play because the score, they were down by about 100. So Flame kills that. They actually go in the lead and they probably get, I think you get more minions when you're ahead or something like that. And then they would have kind of pushed us back.
So there's definitely, I'm excited to see more about Warzone gameplay. I think it'll be a great addition to Halo 5.
Are you going to try and play that today? I know you guys are going back over to E3.
I think today they said they had arena set up, so I definitely want to get some hands-on the arena, the 4v4 stuff. Breakout was pretty big during the beta. Want to see if they added some new maps for that, so excited to see some more Halo 5.
Dude, we're pumped, man. Excited to send you guys back out there. Matt, thank you so much for joining us. We'll be talking with Maven a little bit more about Halo. He got a chance to do some interviews yesterday, caught up with some old pros, Snipe Down namely, and of course, one of the many people behind new Halo 5. We'll be back with that after this commercial break.